Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Ask Dave. Now, I recently got a it was a sad email from somebody lamenting the fact that he had amassed an enormous collection of recorded music, LPs, CDs, reel-to-reel tapes, all kinds of media, and he felt that he was feeling really put upon by the fact that he was getting on in life and he wanted to know what to do with it. Or some people who forget this person want to try and make a little money, or they've come into some sort of inheritance so they don't know what to do with all this stuff, and there is no outlet to sell it. Nobody seems to be interested in it, and he wanted to know. He was complaining about that fact, first of all, and then there was sort of an implied question, let's put it that way, as to what he could do with all of this material he had amassed. And I do want to address that question because it comes up. It comes up a lot. I get lots and lots of mail from people who talk about how they have, their great-grandfather's collection of 78s, or a big collection of compact discs, or a big collection of LPs, and they don't know what to do with them. Here is the bottom line. Throw them out. They are worthless. They are completely, utterly, totally worthless. Now we qualify that statement, right? The bottom line is this. However much you personally care, however much blood, sweat, tears, love, and care you put into putting your collection together and guarding it zealously and taking care of it, it has no value to anyone other than you. There may be a value of certain bits of it to certain people who collect certain things. That's a whole nother issue, right? There are always people who are looking to collect specific items. And if you find somebody for whom your stuff has as much value for them as it does for you, then you're in business. But the chances of that happening are extremely small. Not only are the chances extremely small, but the idea that someone is going to want to give you money, lots of money, for something you have that they desperately want in the recorded music world, that's really, really, really small. It's very funny. When I was back in the days of LPs, remember, certain LPs were worth a lot of money, particularly popular music LPs that had certain covers, because the cover art was valuable. The record wasn't. The music on the record wasn't valuable at all. It was the cover, the art, the packaging, something. If you have something in absolute mint condition that has never been touched, somebody who is a collector of such objects might want to give you some money to collect said object. But in the classical music world, particularly where everyone does the same stuff, I have been exposed to every conceivable type of classical music collector, and it is very, very hard to find somebody who's going to be willing to shell out serious bucks. It's not like you're collecting, expensive foreign sports cars, or things that were really rare. We're talking about a mass-produced commodity that was originally valued for very, very little money. Now, you may have something that's completely unique. You may be recording reel-to-reel tapes off the radio of a certain orchestra or a certain conductor. You may have things that no one else in the world has. And you may think that because of that, you should reap the value of scarcity. Well, that may happen. I can't say it's impossible, but I will say that this scarce person is doing scarce recordings of the same music that everybody else is doing. So we have to take the word scarcity with a grain of salt. You're talking about one scarce performer's version of something that people have many, many, many options to get. So again, you're talking about, if there's a market for it at all, a very, very limited one. And you have to figure out how to get the word out. You can advertise, you can create a website, you can look at various internet chat rooms devoted to the artists in question and see if people have any interest in finding the material. LPs, for example, have made a comeback in the past, a decade or so. God knows why. They're selling for ridiculous prices. And I think people have to be insane to collect them and pay that kind of money, but they do. So you may have something that those people want. And if that's the case, then maybe some of what you have may have some value. But the vast majority of it, whatever it is, I'm telling you right now, and I'm sympathetic. I'm really sympathetic to this because I have to figure out what to do with this stuff. It's worthless. It's absolutely worthless. And it was cheap entertainment when you bought it, and it remains even cheaper entertainment now that you've used it and or hoarded it or whatever you've done to it. I need to tell you a story about this. It's really a very, very interesting story. The founder of Harmonia Mundi, Bernard Coutaz was his name, at one point sent around a letter or a note asking people to sign on to a sort of petition or write or do something to the French Ministry of Culture or some sort of thing, because he was pushing for France to found a global music archive that would subsidize, naturally, at taxpayers' expense, naturally, recorded music that was of signal cultural importance. He believed that the Harmonia Mundi archive, particularly, and other labels too at some point, should be nationalized and preserved for all time. And it was a lovely thought, and it was just indicative of a kind of mentality which we can respect in terms of its idealism, but in terms of its reality, real practicality, I mean, that anyone would ever do that, and then what would happen to it if they did do that? I mean, come on. He might as well have been talking from another planet. And remember, he comes from a subsidy socialist type culture, which tends to look favorably on things like that spends a fortune subsidizing the arts for a tiny minority of people to enjoy, the vast majority of people who couldn't care less, but who still have to pay for it. So my feeling about that was, if you can get some sort of recognition or some sort of funding to do something to save, your legacy, more power to you. But do I think it's going to happen? No. Would I invest a dime in such a thing? No, never. Even if I loved everything that they did. I mean, really, Harmonia Mundi is a wonderful label, and they had a lot of proprietary repertoire. They really did. But it is up to Harmonia Mundi to make that repertoire available and to find a way that it should survive. And if they can't, and if it disappears, then I'm sorry to say we will not be any the worse for it. And I truly believe that, because there is still so much out there. There's so much that we have to experience, so much we have to listen to. We only have so much time. I can understand the theory that all of this stuff, all the product of human striving, should somehow be preserved. But the question, of course, is who's going to pay for it? And how much will they pay for it? And when it comes to the classical music industry, the answer is not that much if it comes to the survival of individual recordings, specific individual recordings. Works, absolutely. Sure, we should have libraries, we should have archives, we should have scores. The potential for performance should always be there. And now that we have digital archives, it's entirely possible that the ability to access and listen to entire recorded archives will become a permanent thing. And that's fabulous. I mean, I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for having everything available all the time to everybody. What I am opposed to or don't think is realistic is the idea that you, Mr. Coutaz, or you, reader who has zillions of reel-to-reel tapes or whatever you have, or viewer, it has the right to put the value on that and expect others to agree with you or pay you that value or give you that value just because it exists. That's not how it works. That isn't how it works at all. That's just the reality of the situation, the economic reality. And like I said, I don't think that's good or bad. It's just the reality. It just is what it is. There is a market, there is a demand, and if there's a demand, maybe you can get something, maybe you can't. So if you are sitting on a pile of something, of classical something, a clump of classical stuff, and you're wondering what to do with it, and you don't have a lot of time, and you don't have a lot of knowledge, and you don't really have much interest in it yourself, or you do, but you have to dispose of it some way, and it's making you crazy, don't let it make you crazy. Just get rid of it. Just get rid of it, or if you pass away, make some arrangement for its disposal. I mean, I would love to be able to take my, hundreds of thousands of CDs or whatever, however many there are, and donate them to somebody. But who would take them? Who would spend the money to take them, to catalog them, to preserve them? I have no clue. No clue whatsoever. And I really can't imagine anybody doing it when the fact of the matter is all of this same stuff is going to be available for digital downloads or for direct streaming on demand. I mean, I like physical product. You know that. I believe that there's more to a recorded performance than just the music as a mass market product. There is packaging, there is presentation, there are the notes, there's a quality image that a record label, which is a business, is trying to project above and beyond the individual releases that they offer. And that quality image, I mean, it's a priceless thing, and it's a beautiful thing and a wonderful thing, an absolutely wonderful thing. But I can't insist that my value for this is shared by anybody else, or that they're willing to pay me what I think they should pay me to experience what I value and treasure. So look, enjoy it because it's yours. Enjoy what you've accomplished, what you've accumulated, what you love. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But don't have unreasonable expectations, and don't expect that it has any value other than the value that you give it. And I say that with all the sympathy and heartfelt understanding that I can. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.